And a very pleasant good afternoon as we welcome you in, albeit a little belatedly, to the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. My apologies, all on me today with the late start. It has been one of those days. We'll just leave it at that. And we welcome you in, though. Lots to get to today. The Dear Goon joining us from his home. Things are interesting over there as well. We're all getting through it. How are you doing today, Goon?
I'm doing great. I feel just fine. All locked up in my home for the next 4 or 5 days, if you know what I'm talking about. Uh, I've been pretty good, but my wife's not well, so
Yeah.
she's down on the weather. She's not feeling well at all. So Nurse Goon right here, Nurse Goon.
Well, but that is good that she has that, and we appreciate your being able to join us from home. My thanks to our buddy Chris for getting everything technically lined up for us today. The Dear Booch, as always, doing yeoman's work behind the scenes to make everything work and come together. So we are appreciative of that as well. One quick note on the local front. Center Gives campaign continues until 8 o'clock tonight. There are lots of wonderful organizations. Obviously, I'm partial to my wife's foundation, which is the Jana Marie Foundation, but there are just so many great organizations doing such great work. If you are in Center County and you get the opportunity to give, if you haven't already, again, until 8 o'clock tonight, you just go to centergives.org. They have the list of all of the organizations. You can click on the organizations to get details about what they do. If you go through there, again, just a great fundraising event for our area and a great opportunity to give and help out. Again, a lot of people that are doing just a lot of great work to help those in various needs in our county. So just would implore you, if you're able to, if you're, again, if you have the means and you're able to give something to somebody, this is a great time to do it. And again, it is Center Give, Center as in Center County, so CNTRE, centergives.org is where you can go to get those donations in until 8 o'clock tonight.
Headley. Question, Headley.
Yeah.
You're a local yokel. Why Center with the TRE? Is there a reason for that?
There has to be.
Okay, you don't know. All right.
I don't, that's actually a good question. It's just the way it's always been, Goon, around here.
There it is.
I don't know. I'll do some research on that because now you have me curious about it.
Were we settled by French? I don't know. I don't know. Was it a French area? Who knows? It's pretty. I don't know. I'd be interested to know. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't know why Center County and all things center around here are RE instead of the normal ER. That's a very good question. I don't know the answer to it. I will do some digging on that.
See that? I'm getting smarter in my nursing. See that? Beautiful.
We'll go with that.
Sure.
Absolutely.
It's easier than better looking, so.
A few things that I wanted to touch on today, and again, lots to get to, even though we're in a relatively quiet time of the year, sports-wise, at least normally. Certainly the wrestling headlines are significant around here, and I guess maybe we'll start there. Just if you did not see, David Taylor has announced, or Oklahoma State has announced that David Taylor has hired Jimmy Kennedy as the associate head coach and Thomas Gilman as the, I don't know if they've listed it as such, but he is the second assistant. So it is Taylor, Kennedy, Gilman, and then there's one other spot on the official coaching staff that is still not known and probably still being worked on. And I think there's a bunch of names that are being thrown about. It could be any of those, or could be somebody that we're not expecting or thinking of off the top of our head. I do think it is a great staff that David is putting together. And I do think that this will change the fortunes of Oklahoma State wrestling in short order. It is interesting. I talked to a buddy who is more of a national guy covering wrestling. And we were talking about what the expectations are now for Oklahoma State and how quickly those expectations come into play. And we both agreed, but I don't know that this is the case. I'd be curious to get kind of the perspective from Stillwater. I think they are expecting to contend for national titles. I don't know that they're necessarily expecting to win, like let's say over the next 5 years. I don't know that if David Taylor gets, let's say, 3 runner-up finishes, a 3rd place and a 5th place finish over the course of the next 5 years. To me, that would be very successful. And I think even Oklahoma State fans that are at least somewhat realistic would say, man, that is some really good stuff. Obviously, the hope there and the desire is to win national titles with an S. But with the stranglehold that Penn State seems to have at the moment on the top of the college wrestling world, I think, and the fellow I was talking to today seemed to concur, that, yeah, a runner-up finish in 3 of the next 5 years would be deemed it would make the David Taylor hiring viewed as a very good hire and successful. Because I don't think, for example, if Coleman Scott, who was presumed to be the heir apparent, if he had that same track record, I think they'd be doing cartwheels, because I don't think anybody would be expecting that Coleman Scott would go in and win a national title or 2 in those first 5 years when you look at what Penn State has in the fold right now, and obviously the history that Cale Sanderson now has behind him here as head coach of the Nittany Lions. So when we talk about, and this is the other thing we were discussing, is what does contending for a national title mean? Because the runner-up this year, for example, finished 100 points behind Penn State. Well, I don't think Oklahoma State fans are going to be looking at that, even though the 2nd place finish, I think, would be viewed as successful. I don't think finishing 100 points behind the national champions would be viewed as an overall success in Stillwater. So, kind of how much Oklahoma State is able to narrow the gap, and then how quickly that occurs, I think will be kind of measuring sticks that will be used to judge again, I'm kind of looking at just the first 5 years here, or the next 5 years of Oklahoma State wrestling and NCAA wrestling. Because listen, Iowa's not going anywhere either. I mean, Iowa's got obviously a very good program doing very good things, and Michigan and Ohio State are kind of all in. I think Ohio State is going to be a really good team in this upcoming year, and might be the team, depending on what happens with the transfers going to Iowa. I think either Iowa or Ohio State right now would be viewed as the biggest threat to Penn State. And then, you do have some other teams. I think Minnesota's back on the rise. NC State and Virginia Tech obviously have some very good things going in the ACC. I think Rob Cole will continue to make progress with North Carolina, and I think they could become a very interesting watch here over the next couple of years. Obviously, Cornell, which was the team that finished second at the NCAAs, has things really going well there. And so, I mean, there are some other teams. Arizona State, obviously, could be right there in the mix as well. So I don't think it's an automatic. Again, when we're talking about success, if they finished runner-up in 3 of the next 5 years, given everything that's out there in the landscape of college wrestling, to me, that would be an unqualified unmitigated success story for Oklahoma State. Because truthfully, I think it's going to be difficult getting into the top 4 here in these next couple of years. Again, just because of the coaches and programs that have things already established and rolling. But I think David Taylor is going to significantly upgrade the recruiting front for Oklahoma State. And because of the transfer portal that's in place, again, I think they can make a pretty immediate splash here and within the next couple of years be the team that is at least perceived as the greatest threat to Penn State and another national championship here.
Headley.
Yep.
Question.
Yes, sir.
As usual, I will always take a very far back seat to you when it comes to wrestling. How frustrated were Oklahoma State wrestling fans that they actually went and got a Penn State guy and an Iowa assistant? I mean, how much? No, I'm not making fun of them, but how much did they really change their ways in doing that? Right? Am I asking the right question? I mean, that had to take a lot for them to do something like that.
No, it is for sure a very different approach.
Because they were.
I mean, it has all been in house, and really a lot of the hires, even for positions within the program, assistants, but also director of ops. I mean, it has been largely an in-house program. Now, that isn't to say, I mean, they certainly have had their fair share of folks in the program who have come from other schools. But I think many, including me, if you had asked me a year ago, obviously not knowing how things were going to play out with the Olympic trials and everything else, but if you had asked me, probably even right when John Smith retired, the likelihood of an Oklahoma State wrestler replacing John Smith, I probably would have put it at about 95 to 99 likelihood. Now, listen, part of the reason for that, though, Goon, is you had Coleman Scott, who, was a head coach at North Carolina and made the move to be the associate head coach at Oklahoma State. Many, including me, believe under the pretense that he was going to be the next head coach at Oklahoma State. But not only did you have Coleman Scott seemingly waiting in the wings, and again, I don't know what the conversations were, and there's a lot of discussion about whether or not he was quote unquote promised the job or not. I don't think until something happens, I don't think anybody anywhere should ever presume that something is going to occur, especially in this world and this day and age where, again, things can change so quickly in so many different ways.
Hey, if David beats Brooks, he's in the Olympics. I don't think he even goes after the job.
I think that's probably true. Yeah, I think that's probably true. But so not only did you have Coleman Scott, who was, again, the heir apparent, but you also have Chris Pendleton, who has done great things with Oregon State, and Pat Popolizio, who's, put North Carolina State on the map in wrestling and has a great track record of success in the collegiate coaching ranks. So I think between those three in particular, it was assumed by many, including me, that, one of those three, again, you have head coaching experience, you have the Oklahoma State pedigree and background, and among those three, I would think, that's your next head coach at Oklahoma State. And by the way, I think any of the three would have been and would be a very good hire. I think all three have, again, great track records of success, would do a great job on the recruiting front and all of that. That being said, I think David Taylor is an absolute grand slam of a hire because of the way it changes kind of the way everybody now looks at Oklahoma State. I think any of the three I mentioned, Coleman Scott, Chris Pendleton, or Pat Papalizio, makes a splash, gets people talking, and in Stillwater in particular, and I think all would do well. How well, I don't know. If you're talking about actually changing the entire dynamics of what Oklahoma State wrestling is perceived as, well, this does it. And while I don't know what all the thoughts are of the Oklahoma State fans, I think at the end of the day, and I think this is kind of where we're at just in collegiate sports, Goon, is hey, if we can get a guy that can come in here and recruit and get big name guys to come and develop them and get us winning, I don't care. And I think that kind of started in the wrestling front. I guess you could argue all the way back with Dan Gable wrestling at Iowa State and then taking the head job at Iowa. But certainly in more recent times, Cale Sanderson's decision to leave his alma mater of Iowa State and make the move to Penn State obviously shook things up. And Penn State had a pretty strong tradition of hiring Penn State guys as well, right? From Lorenzo on, that's what it was. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, by the way. And I don't think there's anything I don't think that's a bad thing that you're hiring folks that are familiar with your program and that know the history and the tradition and all of that. But I also think any school with any sport would be foolish to just limit themselves to thinking only in those terms. I think you, at the very least, owe it to the future of your program to open it up and see what the best hire is you can make. And if it happens to be outside the program for whatever reason, then I think you make that hire. And I just can't imagine that there's I was going to say any. I can't imagine that there are many in Stillwater that at the end of the day aren't excited about this hire, even if you're, maybe a little disappointed that it's not an Oklahoma State guy. Maybe you feel a little badly for Coleman Scott or any of that. At the end of the day, I also think you can't help but be energized by getting David Taylor, who is, if not the biggest name currently in American wrestling, certainly one of the top three. And I think when you look at the overall resume, the pedigree, and the fact that he is coming from the program that has been the dominant force for the last decade and a half, again, if you're Oklahoma State right now, you're saying, hey, we want to figure out how to win at the highest level. Well, this is the guy that would, other than Cale Sanderson or Casey Cunningham, who they obviously went after as well, or Cody Sanderson. I mean, outside of those three guys, this is the guy that probably has the best idea of the secret sauce and the formula that can get you there. And you just hired him. And I think, again, as we talked about on Tuesday, Goon, I don't think there's anything that David won't be able to sell himself in that Oklahoma State program on in terms of expertise. He is just as likable and friendly and honorable of a person as you're going to find in the sport. So I think in terms of the recruiting, being able to talk to parents, being able to talk to kids, his enthusiasm speaks for itself. I think his expertise and kind of the knowledge of the sport, knowing the moves, knowing how to translate those moves and teach them. Again, he's been doing it for a long time to young wrestlers, younger than collegiate, but he's also been in the room, obviously, and working with world-class athletes and collegiate athletes throughout this, last 15 years in Happy Valley. So he certainly has an understanding of how to relate to the kids, to teach them the finer points from a technical angle. And then, the other part of it is I think, administratively, again, David is a guy that he will pick people's brains. And I guarantee he has talked to Cal a lot about the way he has set things up here. His father is just a really just a great leader as well, just kind of a natural leader. And I think when you look at that whole package, somebody that's going to be able to keep up with the rules, knows kind of the importance of the all-around game these days in wrestling, meaning, again, we want to keep tabs on the strength training and developments there. We want to keep tabs on our kids and their sleep cycles. We want to, again, all of the stuff that Penn State does, that stuff David has a very clear understanding of. And I think, again, he's going to throw in his own wrinkles and do things his own way, but he sees and knows the successful culture that was created here. And I think to a large degree, he will be able to replicate it in Stillwater.
Do you think that the Cale Sanderson effect that 14 years ago when he came had that huge impact? Okay, so it has a huge impact on changing Penn State that quick. But there was not a Penn State out there that Oklahoma State's going to go against, right? Because Iowa was sort of on their way down then, or were they still rocking and rolling?
No, when Cale came to Penn State?
Yeah. It took, 2 years?
Yeah, Iowa was the standard bearer.
Still rocking and rolling heavy, big time?
Big time. And,
And now,
and it was,
how much do you think that Cale doing that 15 years ago played into David doing it, getting this opportunity? Are they trying to, I don't know, lightning strike twice in a bottle type of thing,
Well, I mean, yeah, I think that's what they're hoping for, but
yeah.
I think more so it's the recognition that there is a new way of doing things that is successful now in college wrestling. And again, there's a lot of people trying to make that adjustment, but David Taylor has obviously firsthand knowledge and experience and understanding of why it works and how it works. And I think it's just trying to tap into that. But I also think it is David Taylor himself. And, let's be clear that he while I do think Penn State and Cale Sanderson unquestionably helped him on the path. And I think Casey Cunningham, I think if you asked David, Cale and Casey both had a huge hand in him accomplishing what he was able to accomplish both collegiately and internationally. But I think David was destined for success no matter what, right? Like, that guy is just driven, has the competitive fire. And, we get into discussions every now and then, but, the alternative worlds, what happens if this guy, I don't know how successful, and I don't know to what degree David would have accomplished what he has accomplished if he had gone somewhere else, but he would have been very successful. I mean, he just was a great high school wrestler. And again, is very passionate, very knowledgeable, but is also a guy that is very relatable. So while I think that the Penn State connection is huge, I don't want to undervalue like what David himself just brings to the table. You talk to him and you watch him around the young kids at M2. He gets their attention, and yeah, it's because of the accolades and in part because of the Penn State Association, but it's also his ability just to relate to people. And again, he can relate to parents, he can relate to other coaches, he can relate to the kids because he loves the sport and he loves teaching it. I mean, I think that's one of the things that he and Cale have in common is it's a passion, but it's a passion to kind of share their passion and get other people as excited about it and teach them about it in a way that will make them be able to achieve their dreams and their goals as well. And I think, that part of it, that the Penn State piece is big, but I also, it is David Taylor and who he is, the way he conducts himself, all of that I think is also a big deal here for Oklahoma State. David Taylor is going to go out and sell Oklahoma State wrestling, and do so in a way that I think very few could right now with the same authority that David Taylor is going to be able to do it with.
Hey man, it's we've talked about how we are in the middle of really nowhere when it comes to industry. I mean, he's going to have a lot of people to draw from in that program, and a lot of people who want to get behind that program. He's in a hell of a situation, in my opinion. He can get some studs out there real quick with this NIL stuff.
Yep. No, there's no question. I think that is going to be a big component here for him and for Oklahoma State is, if you're everything else being equal and you're down to a couple of schools, I think Oklahoma State is going to be able to throw at least as much, if not more, NIL money than anybody out there, is at least my perception and expectation there. So,
well, my guy out there is telling me he's like the people are very, very, very jacked up out there. And again, my question was always the whole, how are they about change? I mean, again, Gilman's an Iowa guy. I mean, how is that? I mean, they might not have an issue with Penn State, but I know Oklahoma State has issues with Iowa, right? Like historically.
Yes, but again, it's the same thing. If the guy wants to be there and wants to help your program, I mean, Penn State has its history with Iowa, and the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club was thrilled to get Gilman in, and Gilman is, I mean, I guarantee you, he is going to be all in now with Oklahoma State. He was all in when he was with Iowa. He was all in here working with the kids here, and it wasn't like he was torn when the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club guys were going against an Iowa wrestler. And it's not that there's, bad blood or ill will there. It's just, hey, this is where I'm at now. And it's going to be the same thing. Again, when you go to that school, I mean, Cale Sanderson obviously has Iowa State in his blood. He was the head coach there. He achieved unparalleled success in his collegiate career, but he's now Penn State. This is his job. He's in charge of it. So it's not like when Penn State wrestler wrestles an Iowa State kid that Cale's torn. No, he's all in because the kids he's working with are Penn State, and it's going to be the same thing. David is, I think, going to be forever grateful, just as Cale is forever grateful to Bobby Douglas and Iowa State and what it provided him. David is going to be forever grateful, and I think we'll have very fond memories of all of his time here at Penn State. But this is now his baby at Oklahoma State, and he's working with those kids. And moving forward, that's that's who he is. He's going to be Oklahoma State wrestling, and that's the way it should be. But I think from a Penn State perspective, I think it's exciting to see somebody that had the success David had here now go on and branch out. And I think it's one of the things that we've been kind of waiting for a little bit, where, Dan Gable, if you go back and look at the impact he had on college coaching throughout the country, certainly in the Big Ten, but all throughout the country, I mean, it is truly amazing the number of coaches that came out of that Iowa program. While Penn State has had some coaches as assistant coaches, David is the first one here to get a plum college gig. Now, I think some others are going to get there, and guys like Mark Hall and Vincenzo Joseph, and I think eventually guys like Jason Nolf and Zane Rutherford, if they want to pursue that, and I know Nolf does. I'm not sure about Rutherford, if he wants to be coaching at the collegiate ranks, but I mean Jason Nolf has openly talked about that. So I do think you're going to start to see more of these guys. Frank Molinaro has been working his way up. I think you're going to see more of these guys, over the next 5-6 years start to get some of these college head coaching jobs and kind of continue the ongoing influence that Cale is having in the sport as a whole.
All right. My last question before we go to break here, and that is that I knew Cale Sanderson as a transcendent athlete. The whole world knew him. How transcendent is David Taylor's name and I know in the wrestling world it's gold. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, like what do you think David's name means? You know what I mean? Like everybody in the country knew who Cale Sanderson was. What percentage do you think David has of that? Like 75% type of thing?
Yeah, I think it's comparable. I mean, it's not. I mean, Cale obviously did something unprecedented and hasn't been done since, and winning 4 national titles while going undefeated in each of those seasons. So, there was a different level there just with that collegiate success. But I mean, anybody who follows wrestling to any degree is certainly aware of David Taylor and what he has accomplished. And I think, is it Cale Sanderson? No, but my gosh, I mean, you're talking about a 2-time Hodge Trophy.
Right. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm going with it.
Champion, multiple-time world champion, and Olympic gold medalist. I mean, the name recognition in this generation is as good as anybody else out there. Now, Jordan Burroughs and Kyle Dake are obviously right there. Kyle Snyder is, maybe the standard bearer here right now for this generation. But those names are all, readily read off by anybody who, again, has any passing interest in wrestling. So, but where I think David has a little more going, and this is what I was trying to get at, is all of those guys, the resume of Kyle Snyder and Kyle Dake is every bit as impressive as the resume of David Taylor. But where I think Taylor, why I think this hire is so great for Oklahoma State is again, he brings all of that Penn State pedigree with him and the relationship with Cale Sanderson and all of that. But David, if you've heard him commentate, and he's done some commentating, he is just so well spoken, Goon, and can go on and on about a variety of topics. I mean, certainly wrestling, and that's his passion for sure. But he is a pretty knowledgeable guy when it comes to business, to fishing, to just everyday life interests. And I think there's I just think his personality is well suited because he's an outgoing, gregarious guy. I think he's friendly to just about everybody. I mean, he doesn't get into these, Twitter wars or spats. Like he's pretty much stays in his lane, and it's promoting himself. And that's the other thing is, make no mistake that being a head coach in any sport today at the collegiate level, a big part of this is marketing and promoting, right? Like the way you get in with the young star wrestlers is in part by promoting and marketing that, hey, man, look at what we're doing with Oklahoma State. Well, look at what David built with M2 training center here. Obviously, he's marketed himself very well and has worked, his name, image, and likeness into a lot of successful ventures. And again, he is just so well connected. I mean, outside of Cale, I don't know that there's anybody in wrestling that's just better connected with the entire wrestling community than David Taylor. When he was growing up, okay, he was a big name really from his elementary school days. I mean, people were following him and it's like, wow, can you believe what this guy is doing? Well, he parlayed that at every step into good relationships, again, with sponsors, with coaches, with other wrestlers. You go to any tournament, if you followed him throughout his, again, going back even to his elementary days, but he was a guy that is just out talking and just chatting up the other competitors. And I just think he is uniquely positioned because of his connection with Cal and Penn State, and his passion for the sport and his knowledge of the sport. But you combine that with, I think, a real business acumen and a personality that is just extremely likable. I can't imagine that there would be a single person, even if hey, I've grown up and I'm a Michigan fan all my life and I'm the top Michigan recruit and Michigan's where I'm going. I still think if David Taylor picks up the phone, just like if Cale Sanderson picks up the phone and says, hey, I'd like to talk to you, I think you're, oh man, David Taylor wants to talk to me? Cool. Like you're
take that call,
right? No matter what. And I think, Cale and David are going to get in the door with just about anybody. Now, what Penn State has going right now, I think is unprecedented in terms of the success at the highest levels. And I still think Penn State is, even moving forward, going to get more than its fair share of those guys. But I do think David Taylor being at Oklahoma State means that there's some legitimate competition now for some of these top guys coming out of high school. And I think it's now another big opportunity for guys that are in the transfer portal to find a different landing spot and maybe try to gather a bunch together the way, it seems like I was trying to do for this year. And again, I just think Oklahoma State now becomes they've always been attractive. This is the other thing, is it's not like Oklahoma State
they're not
fell off the map here. They had a couple of rough years, 2022 and 2023. The NCAA tournament finishes were well below what Oklahoma State expects. So, they did fall off, but you look what they did this year, and I think everything is in place. This isn't a program that you're building truly from the ground up, right? Like, you have a running start. This is clearly a top 10 program. I think with John Smith back this coming year, they were likely going to be a top 5 program. Now we'll see how many guys ultimately decide they're leaving, but I just think they're going to get a lot more guys, high caliber guys who are going to be excited to come into that program now. And again, I don't think this is going to be a very long turnaround in terms of Oklahoma State being a program that knocks on the door anyway of being, a top 3 type of program and a contender anyway, depending on how you want to define contender, but a contender for the national championship.
Real quick, Jeffrey, how is the cupboard there?
Well, so it's good if it stays. Now, I don't know how many. I don't have any idea what internally those guys are thinking. I can't imagine that if they at least allow David Taylor and now, again, we know it's Jimmy Kennedy and Thomas Gilman. If you meet with those 3, even if you were hell bent on, man, it's Coleman Scott or bust, I can't imagine, and again, I'm just outside looking in, but I can't imagine meeting with those 3 guys and say, nope, I don't want to be part of it. I'm out of here. Because they're going to come in and tell you, listen, if you stay, we are going to develop you into the best wrestler you can be. And we, as a team, make no mistake, our goal is to win national titles with an S. And so, and again, they're going to be able to look and say, look at our backgrounds, look at all 3 of us, what we've accomplished, what we've been around, what we know and bring to the table. To me, that's not going to be a very hard sell. Now, you might have a couple of guys that are rankled and that, yep, we're out of here. I really don't think they're going to lose much. And I think that team, as it is, no other changes. If there had been no changes, if John Smith and everybody are just returned, I think that was a team that was probably a top 5 program next season with what they had returning. Not guaranteed, but I really
know what
think
you're
that's what
saying.
we're looking at.
And our backups, our cupboard. How many of those? I mean, these are all hypotheticals and just asking you your opinions. But
yeah,
I mean, David's a very well-known guy in that wrestling room up here. That he might be like, hey, you're still waiting 2 years, but hey, why don't you come out here now?
I don't think you're going to see initially much of a move. Now, a guy like Terrell Barraclaw, I don't know where all he's been looking at, and might he end up out there? I suppose that's possible, but I think more likely to me is as we get a couple of years down the road here, when you look at the influx of guys that are coming in this year and then next year, and even potentially ahead to 2026. Again, there are not enough spots in the starting lineup to allow all of the guys that Penn State has brought in as big name recruits to be in the lineup. I do think this now becomes a likely destination for some of the guys that won't be the starters. As hey, this is a pretty good fallback plan, and maybe we can still go and win a national title even with Oklahoma State. So
Yeah.
I do think that down the road there will be more of an impact. And again, I could be wrong in this. I just don't think initially there's going to be any kind of a mass exodus or really much of a difference at all in terms of who's staying at Penn State. Where I think, and what I'm really interested to see and curious about is some of the transfers that are out there in the portal now, and whether or not some of them that maybe did not have Oklahoma State even as a consideration now end up going to Oklahoma State. And again, I don't know that anybody will, but I would think, like, if you're an Andrew Alirez, and I know a lot of people have been projecting and speculating he'll end up at Iowa. Wyatt Hendrickson from the Air Force Academy, same thing. A lot of people have him going to Iowa, and maybe Iowa still gets all of these guys. There's a few others that Iowa seems to be the leading candidate for. Maybe this doesn't change that, but I would think some of these guys are going to, oh, you know what? Let me just look. Maybe for my final year, I'll be part of this new big deal on the college wrestling block and go and compete for David Taylor. And maybe that opens up some other doors then,
Sure.
depending on the success they have. So
Did you say Hendrickson from Air Force?
What's that?
Did you say Hendrickson from Air Force, the heavyweight guy?
Yeah.
He has more time.
He has another year of eligibility, and
why would you leave Air Force though? I mean, isn't he beholden to them? Like,
no, he's been in the portal a while, and again, most have him projected as going to Iowa, but we'll see. I mean, there's been nothing firmed up there. So
I liked him. I like his game. So all right, now my final question of the final questions. Who had a more daunting task? Cale Sanderson 14 years ago or David Taylor going into Oklahoma State?
Cale Sanderson had a much taller,
I agree,
order in turn. Again, Oklahoma State, Cale Sanderson, to his credit, did pretty much immediately change the culture. But I think in terms of competing for a national title or having guys that are of that caliber already in the program. Now, David's got to go sell them and keep them in the program. But Oklahoma State, I think, is more ready to go try to compete for national championships than Penn State was when Cale, initially was signed. Now, Cale obviously brought with him some significant components that changed that outlook very, very quickly. obviously most notably David Taylor, but certainly, Ed Ruth, and then keeping Quentin Wright in the fold. But I mean, Oklahoma State is more prepared right now to make that next jump. Now,
Gotcha.
I will say, because Penn State's here and Cal Sanderson's here, like that, I think the tougher task to actually win a national championship in, let's say, the first 3 years, I think that is actually tougher for Oklahoma State. So I guess it maybe depends a little bit on how we're defining some things here. But I think, in terms of being a top 3 program, I think Oklahoma State is more ready-made. In terms of actually winning a title, just because of Penn State and Penn State alone and Cal Sanderson and this staff, I think it's a very tall order for anybody anywhere. Really, as you look at it, Goon, and again, I'm not guaranteeing anything. Sports can change like that. But I think when you look again at the talent that Penn State has coming in, what it has going right now, I think it is an extremely tall order for anybody to think that anybody other than Penn State to think they will win the national title here in the next 5 years. Now, that doesn't mean a doggone thing. My thinking something. Michigan is all in. Ohio State is all in. Oklahoma State is certainly all in now. And Iowa is all in. And I think Arizona State, if not all in, is awfully darn close. And again, I think you look at Cornell, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, North Carolina State. I mean, there's a bunch of programs, Missouri, that are like, hey, we're coming, Nebraska. So, things can change quickly. It's just when you, again, look at the history here of Penn State, and then what is in the fold, what potentially could be coming into the fold when you look at Pennsylvania wrestling and some of the big names that Penn State is at least involved in. Again, it is going to take something special. I'll just leave it at that. Certainly, there's plenty of schools and coaches out there, David Taylor and Oklahoma State included, that could do something special. But, I mean, it is going to be something really special to knock off Penn State anytime in the next 5 years anyway.
Great answer. Good answer, Ironhead.
All right. Well, I'll go with it. We'll take a break here. You are listening to the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show finally after my delay in getting this on today. Appreciate your bearing with us on that. We will get into lots of other sports talk here. The Phillies and Pirates both lost, so very, very similar stories right now with Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. We'll maybe get into that a little bit as we continue with our Thursday edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show on WFXS. Pleasant Gap State College. We're coming right back.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorrento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
Since retiring, I have spent my time searching the countryside for the hottest wings in America. I always seem to end up disappointed. You call these hot? Back off, Luigi.
Mamma mia.
You hands it, busboy. Your wings suck! I knew I should have stuck with Quaker Steak's triple atomic wings. You think I'm tough enough?
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
Sioka Toyota of Williamsport invites you to stop in today or check us out online. We have the smart path to your next Toyota, like the all-new Crown, BZ4X, the all-new Grand Highlander, Corolla Cross Hybrids, Sequoias, and more. Over 100 new Toyotas here and on the way. Don't make a $1,000 mistake. Choose Sioka Toyota of Williamsport and see the Sioka dealership's difference. Buy or reserve yours today and see for yourself why Sioka Toyota is the only stop you need for your next new car. Sioka Toyota, it just feels right.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen Baker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen Baker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen Baker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
The Goon and Ironhead.
And we welcome you back in here on this Thursday afternoon. A couple of other quick wrestling notes, and then we will get into some other sports, I promise. But Greg Kirkley did make it official. He is coming back for his final year of eligibility for the Nittany Lion wrestling team, and that means that Penn State will have all of the wrestlers that it could coming back for next season. The only two starters from last year's team who will not return are the only two who had used up all of their eligibility, and Bernie Truax and Aaron Brooks. So again, 8 starters from last year's team will return. Doesn't mean that all 8 will be in the starting lineup this year. There's likely going to be some guys that will redshirt and some changing of weight classes and all of that, but 8 starters back from a team that set the all-time NCAA scoring record, and then you throw into the mix some of the guys that are waiting in the wings here and coming in, and it is hard not to be excited about this upcoming season. But again, Greg Kirkley announcing that he is, in fact, returning for his final year of eligibility. And again, mention that you're listening to WFXS, Pleasant Gap State College, the Goon and Ironhead show here on a Thursday. The other thing is that both Spencer Lee and Zane Rutherford are now in Istanbul, Turkey, and will be looking to qualify their weight classes for the United States and therefore earn their individual spots in the Olympic Games in Paris in August. The action got underway today, but the freestyle part, the men's freestyle action does not occur until Saturday. So both Spencer Lee and Zane Rutherford will begin their portion of the competition on Saturday. I think today is all just Greco-Roman action, and then I think there's some Greco-Roman and women's action tomorrow. But the men's freestyle will be Saturday and Sunday. Zane's bracket, by the way, if
yeah, I want to ask that. What are the chances for both of them?
I mean, they're good, but Zane has a really tall task in front of him. I think it's in his second match that he will face a world medalist pretty much out of the gate. And then again, the top 3 in each weight class will secure that weight class for their country and a berth in the Olympics. But it is not a given. For folks that are thinking, oh yeah, these guys are going to go in and just cakewalk their way in, that is not the case for either of them. But Zane's draw is a tough one. Now, Zane Rutherford is, I think, capable of going out and winning the gold medal at the Olympics. So it's not that there's anybody there where you're like shaking in your boots and, oh man, Zane just has no chance. But again, there's to get there, he's going to have to beat at least 3 quality, really quality individuals. So we'll keep an eye on that, obviously, on Saturday and Sunday, and certainly hoping that both Spencer Lee and Zane Rutherford qualify those weights, and the U.S. men's freestyle team sends its full contingent to Paris this summer. So those are
Jeffrey, why do they have to do that? Why was it? Because that weight class wasn't wrestling? Who wasn't wrestling in these national or world duels and stuff like that?
Well, no, they just didn't qualify. That you have to place different tournaments, different placings throughout the year in order to secure.
So David got his weight qualified, correct?
Yep, 4 of the 6 were already qualified for the United States. Just the 57 and 65 kilos with Spencer Lee and Zane Rutherford that still need to qualify. But it's just a qualifying process that happens every Olympic cycle.
Okay.
Let's turn to some Phillies and Pirates talk here, Goon. The Phillies finally lost, falling to the Blue Jays. The last time Philadelphia lost a game at Citizens Bank Park was on April 14th to the beloved Pittsburgh Pirates. But they had won 11 straight between the losses to the Pirates and then to the Blue Jays yesterday. And Philadelphia has the best record in Major League Baseball. And it's just a team right now, Goon, that is hitting on all cylinders. They're getting obviously very good pitching, very good and very timely hitting, but also playing some terrific defense and making some real gems in the field as well. I'm not following them as closely as you are, but just reading through some of the recaps and looking at some of the highlights. Again, at the moment, this is just a red-hot team, despite the loss to the Blue Jays yesterday.
Yeah, I think that they're 14 games over 500. So think about that. If they play 500 ball the rest of the year, they'd finish with 95 or 96 wins. So that's where that's where I just sit there and go, oh, wow, okay, all right. They're really rolling right now. Yeah, it's all pitching. But it's been run supported for the pitchers. So the guys at the back end of the starting rotation are getting major league big time runs, and the top 2 guys aren't getting much. So it's like they're winning games by pitching and winning games by hitting. So again, I've been on these guys for a long time, but they're just so much fun to watch because they are always in it. They're never out of it, and that's what I love about watching this team. The only guy I would be a little skeptical of, and I have been for a while, and that is Castellanos out in right field. There is some talk that maybe they might somehow get him jettisoned out and pick up a defensive replacement.
Yeah.
Because they're not really living off of his bat. He's batting 190 right now. So, but to be just something as Trey Turner going down at shortstop, and then all of a sudden you just pop over Bryson Stott over there and you put Merriweather at second. Just a random guy at second base now. It's like, wow, and they're still knocking the crap out of the ball and still playing. And, you're losing a $30 million guy in Trey Turner, and, they haven't missed a beat. You probably didn't even know he was hurt.
Well,
he popped a hammy a couple of days ago, and they're saying it could be a longer one. It's one of those higher hamstrings that might cost them up to 4 to 5 weeks. So, and the fact that they've just moved over their second baseman to short and then plopped in Brett Murray or whoever at second base and just playing and they're balling. So again, it's fun. They're carrying each other. They're enjoying each other and having fun doing it. That's easy to watch baseball then.
Yeah, I think the Pirates are actually. I don't know if they realize Castellanos is hitting 190. That would be probably second behind O'Neal Cruz in that Pirates lineup right now.
There you go.
Hey, we gotta sign him up. Is there somebody that's actually batting 190?
We'll take that guy. Yeah,
do it.
Yeah. Yeah, then you got your boy Skeens coming up Saturday. Are you going this weekend?
So this is this is my luck. So it was fairly apparent over the last couple of weeks that they were going to call him up, and me and a couple of friends, knowing that I was coming down this weekend, it's like, oh, we might see his debut on Friday night. And of course, the Pirates announced yesterday that, yep, they are bringing him up this weekend, and it'll be Saturday that he gets the start. So I'll miss his major league debut by one day. I was hoping that it might be Friday, but we're going down just for the Friday night game for that opening of the series with the Cubbies. But oh my gosh, Goon, just when you're trying to get a little bit excited and the Pirates to get that 3-game win streak, and you're like, oh man, they should be able to sweep this series at home with the Angels, really build some momentum going into this Cubs series, and then you're bringing Skeens up, and then you turn around and you lose 2 games to an Angels team that had gone 9 consecutive series without winning a series. And the Pirates win the first game of the series and then lose the next 2 to drop the series to the very lowly Angels. And it's just, it's kind of crushing. Let's
just say the Angels have destroyed the Pennsylvania baseball teams because the Phillies split with them.
I know.
And you're sitting there and you're like, they're sweeping everybody, and then they go out and play the Angels, and they stunk against them, just like the Pirates did, and losing 2 out of 3. So,
I get it. I mean, it's baseball. You have a day or two here or there. That, I mean, it's not. I understand it as far as it goes. It's just you felt like there was a real opportunity, even if they just won one of the 2. And yesterday's game was there for the taking, and the Pirates just could not get timely hitting down the stretch, and then just kind of a rough 6th inning for the pitching staff, and it just it unraveled a little bit there. But I do think that Skeens is going to get people jacked, and there is going to be a buzz in Pittsburgh this weekend, and we'll see what happens. He obviously looks like the real deal, and I think it'll be Pittsburgh's answer to the Kelsey Swift phenomenon.
Absolutely. That's my next question, buddy.
We'll see what Skeens and Livy Dunn can bring.
Is Livy coming? Is Livy going to be there?
I don't know. That we've been joking, some friends and I don't know. The Livy Dunn sightings undoubtedly will start, whether or not they actually occur or not. You'll have the Livy Dunn sightings probably starting tonight in and around Pittsburgh. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen or heard if there's any
I heard she's looking at property and she's at the tavern in Bollesburg. She's at Tough Duffy's right now.
I love
her and Urban Meyer are out looking for property out in Bollesburg.
Yes, it just makes perfect sense, Goon.
Hey, I got a question for you. Let's say you know who Livy Dunn is. You know that she's a gymnast for LSU and the U.S. Olympic team, all that stuff, yada, yada, yada. Where's she from? Do you know?
Originally?
Yeah. Born and raised.
I don't.
North freaking New Jersey.
There you go.
From Bergen, New Jersey. And you just don't see that. You just think that she's a Southern Belle type of girl down at LSU from down there and stuff like that. You just don't. I guess you don't really hear her talk that much that you could hear a Jersey accent or whatnot, because I was amazed that she wasn't from the South, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah, but isn't that weird? Like, you really don't see that many gymnasts coming out of the North Jersey area, but there, lo and behold, here we go. No, but I like the Skeens. I like the Skeens call because, and I think they've done it right. I mean,
yeah, I think so too.
They really have. They've handled him well. I mean, I think that they may have learned lessons of getting guys out there too early in their career and just getting shelled, and they completely lose all their confidence, where they made him a little bit hungry to get into the show, in my opinion.
Oh, I don't think there's any question. He'll be chomping at the bit to get out there and prove himself here on Saturday.
Headley, who is the AAA team for Pittsburgh?
Now it is Indianapolis, right?
It just seems that they call up most of the guys from Altoona.
They have called up a fair number, that is for sure.
Is that a common thing? I don't know, because we got Reading and we got Lehigh Valley, but most of the guys come from Reading, but the guys that are coming in for the Phillies are coming in from Lehigh Valley, the
Yeah.
AAA team. Now, is it just because it's the convenience of Altoona and Pittsburgh being right there and just saying, okay, well,
I think that has something to do with it, for sure. I mean, yeah, it's obviously.
I guess what I'm saying is, has he pitched for Indianapolis?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I thought he's been in Altoona for 2 years.
No. No, he's been rocking and rolling.
Oh, okay.
No,
So he has been with a AAA team then.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, is he still? Is he coming from Altoona tomorrow, or is he in Indianapolis?
Yeah, Indianapolis.
Oh, dude, I thought he was playing for the Curve. I'm sorry.
No.
There you go. No, I thought he was playing for the Curve this year, and they called him up from there. And I wanted to know why they're not getting from Indianapolis, but I guess he's in Indianapolis.
Yeah, no. He's been putting up very impressive numbers. So
I'm interested.
yeah.
I will watch that game. I mean, just to see him go out there, and because you do remember him in the college and stuff like that, and you want to see. Like, again, I'm very happy that the Pittsburgh Pirates were very, very patient with bringing him up and not letting him go out there and get shelled and lose all his confidence. They did the right thing with him.
I agree with you, and I think hopefully he brings that little extra oomph to the Pirates organization that they desperately need right now. Again, O'Neal Cruz is just one impressive player in every way, but outside of that, there really isn't a draw. I mean, you love McCutchen. If you're a Pirates fan, I love McCutchen, but there's no question I'm kind of presuming this is going to be his final season, but if not, we're certainly getting very close to the end of his career. But in terms of a draw right now, again, Mitch Keller had a great start the other night, but outside of O'Neal Cruz, like, there's not a guy that, man, I got to get there and see what this guy's doing. Well, Paul Skeens, you got to get there and see what this guy's doing. And, hopefully hopefully he is what we all think he is and brings that, I guess, swagger to not just the pitching staff, but to the organization. And, you can kind of take that next step here in the building process toward becoming some sort of a contender anyway in the National League once again. It's been a long time coming.
That's what it's finally all those draft picks are coming to fruition. Finally, they're starting all to come up to the big leagues, and like I said, they've done it right. They were very patient with their guys, and I don't know, man. Maybe the tide's turned for you. Who knows? They finally got some baseball people in there understanding what they need to do, and they've taken advantage of it. No, I hope he comes out there, and I hope he does well. And it's weird, but it is what it is. I mean, I just don't want to see the guy like that go out and fail because, he has a national name, I guess, from watching the College World Series a couple of years ago.
For sure. Yeah. No, there's
that
no doubt.
Stash. I mean, just the stash alone, like, that's like 1975 Rick Cerrone right there,
And listen, from a marketing standpoint, having something like that is a big deal, Goon. Like, right, having that, there's something else besides your sports greatness that can separate you from the field. Like, that is going to be something that will be hopefully, if all goes as expected, that is going to be a hallmark here of Pirates baseball in the coming years. Look at the stash. And
so a lot of like the young Philadelphia fans will go and they'll pick some players and they'll pick up some characteristics and they'll have their little wolf pack and they'll have this little crew and this and that. So there definitely will be a section in Pittsburgh with just mustached people, I think. Fake and real, all men and women. So, I mean, I just,
No doubt. All right, let's couple of other Penn State sports notes. The softball team losing in extra innings to Maryland. It is really interesting, Goon. They played 3 games during the regular season, and then obviously first round of the Big Ten playoffs. And in 3 of the 4 games, they went to extra innings. So, for whatever reason, the matchup there. Now, Penn State had the better overall season, came in as the number 7 seed, and Maryland the 10 seed. But for whatever reason, they just obviously matched up very evenly. Tough loss for Penn State, and I certainly don't. I'm not going to pretend that I'm some sort of a softball expert here in terms of the NCAA, but Penn State put out that they'll sit back and wait and hope for an NCAA tournament bid. It feels like they are not in very strong contention for as great as this season was, and it was a great season. It just, I don't think they did quite enough in the Big Ten, and certainly losing that first round game to Maryland, and I'm expecting Maryland will play the number 2 seed Michigan today at 5:30. I'm expecting Michigan will handle that game fairly easily. Michigan is really good. It has been for a long time. And so in the overall scheme of things, I don't know how much of a difference a win or a loss to Maryland makes, but losing that game, it just, I don't know. To me, Goon, it was just very deflating in terms of how you perceive the overall season. And again, it was a great year, and I'm not saying that one loss in extra innings to a team that you played close every time you faced them. But it just, I think getting to that quarterfinal round and getting that opportunity against Michigan would just leave you with a little different feel about the overall way this season went. But again, we'll see. Hopefully they do get into the NCAA tournament and maybe can make some noise if they get there. I'm not sure how likely or not likely it is. It just at least in the moment, to me, not really knowing the overall picture, that it just felt like a really tough loss to absorb yesterday in terms of those tournament hopes.
Yeah, and especially if they have those tournament hopes, or where they had to win at least one game in that tournament to get to that, have that quality win late in the year. I know it'll be over a 10 seed, but I mean, just say just say we're playing Michigan tonight, and they beat Michigan, then you can pretty much shoot yourself in there. But yeah, you wish that had happened because it was such a good season, and this was the turnaround season for the program, I believe, and they're going to build from there. Yeah, and if they don't get in, they still have that attitude. They're still going to have that attitude, like, hey, we should have been in. Let's leave no doubt next year, type of thing.
Well, and I think Bridget Nemeth was named Big Ten Freshman of the Year, first team all Big Ten selection. And I do think, we talk about programs and trying to make that turn. I do think having Nemeth here, Goon, is a really big deal for Penn State, because that is a player now that I think you can use as an attraction for other recruits in the next couple of years. Hey, you come here, you get to play with and behind Bridget Nemeth. That is a game changer type of player. And so I'm with you. Regardless of what happens with the NCAA tournament this year, it does feel like this program is setting itself up for to continue to build on the success from this year, and really get into a position where it can contend for a Big Ten title and be a pretty clear-cut NCAA tournament team on a regular basis. And that's certainly the goal and the hope here, I know, for the program.
Absolutely, no doubt about it.
Penn State baseball, unfortunately, last night was the ESPN2 game. That was not the game that you were hoping to highlight the Nittany Lions with. Lost at Morgantown to West Virginia. West Virginia jumped out to an 8-0 lead in the first inning. Penn State did not get a run across, and then West Virginia put up a quick 8 spot on the board in the bottom of the first, and then added 4 more before Penn State did erupt for 7 runs in the 3rd inning, but then that was it. The bats went quiet again for the Nittany Lions after that, and they lost at 18-7 and are now back to 500 of the season, 21-21. They'll wrap up the home schedule with a 3-game series against Rutgers this weekend at Medler Field at Lebrano Park with Senior Day on Sunday. And, Goon, I do think – I think that baseball program is headed in the right direction. I do think you've got to be a little patient. It's going to take a little while to get things really clicking. They've shown some flashes. They've done some good things this year. But, I mean, it's a 500 team. I think they're where, you are what your record says, is as the old saying goes. And they are. They're a 500 team. But I think much like with what Clarissa Crowell's done with the softball program, I think you're going to see this thing build over the next few years. And I really like Mike Gambino, and I think they have the right guy in charge here. Again, a little patience is going to be required, but I think you can already see some good things happen in the program. Again, to me, is clearly headed in the right direction here.
Yep. So I stayed after our show Tuesday and had a beer and with John Schaefer from the Brew Fest this coming weekend. So we were just sitting there talking, and 4 baseball players came out and sat next to us. So we were just talking, and I asked them how the program is doing and stuff like that. And they said, well, it's a whole new attitude around here. The culture's changed a whole bunch, type of thing. It was refreshing to hear. These guys were saying that, and you could actually, and the thing is that I believed them, what they were saying. They were deeply interested in very, very, they're invested in Penn State baseball, and I think they were proud to be Penn State baseball players, and they had their chest swelled a little bit talking to us, and it was pretty cool. So not bad eaters either, I got to say. I mean, we had about 15 to 20 wings between each of them, and there was 4 of them, and I was like, good job, fellas, good job, good work.
Yep, I am not surprised to hear that part of it. But, yeah, I do think they are, again, headed in the right direction, and they've done some good things this year. I think bigger and better things are in store here with each successive year here for Mike Gambino's tenure as the head coach of the Nittany Lions. Also, both lacrosse teams will be in NCAA tournament action in the upcoming weekend. I'll tell you what, we'll take a break here. A couple other things just on the football front as we head into kind of a quiet time of the year, but I think looking ahead, there's a lot of excitement to the upcoming season for Penn State, but just to see what the landscape is going to look like with college football, with the additions to the SEC and the Big Ten, and what teams are going to make the biggest impacts, and what teams maybe slip back a little bit in those respective conferences due to Texas and Oklahoma coming into the SEC, and now Washington and Oregon and USC and UCLA coming into the Big Ten. So we'll maybe kick that around a little bit as we continue. Again, it is our Thursday edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead Show. You can come on down here to Quaker Steak and Lube. Enjoy some great sports action on the TVs down here. Great food, great menu, and again, quality service, which is not always easy to come by these days. We guarantee you will find it here at Quaker Steak and Lube. We're coming right back with more on Sports Radio 98.7 The Fall.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorrento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
Since retiring, I have spent my time searching the countryside for the hottest wings in America. I always seem to end up disappointed. You call these hot? Back off, Luigi.
Mamma mia.
Look, hands it, busboy. Your wings suck! I knew I should have stuck with Quaker Steak's triple atomic wings. You think I'm tough enough?
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
Sioka Toyota of Williamsport invites you to stop in today or check us out online. We have the smart path to your next Toyota, like the all-new Crown, BZ4X, the all-new Grand Highlander, Corolla Cross Hybrids, Sequoias, and more. Over 100 new Toyotas here and on the way. Don't make a $1,000 mistake. Choose Sioka Toyota of Williamsport and see the Sioka dealership's difference. Buy or reserve yours today and see for yourself why Sioka Toyota is the only stop you need for your next new car. Sioka Toyota, it just feels right.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen Baker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen Baker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen Baker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
The Goon and Ironhead.
And we welcome you back in here on this Thursday afternoon. The Dear Goon at home and checking in with us. And I am here at Quaker Steak and Lube, our home away from home on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We have a patron down here. Yeah, go ahead. I have a question down here at the Lube. We have not talked about that, about Aaron Brooks and the report on the Adderall and the test. There's not anything new to report. The expectation from everybody I've talked to, and I've reached out to a few folks, I don't think it's going to amount to anything. I think this is it was more of a paperwork error than it was an actual oh my gosh, I can't believe this guy is using a substance and anything like that. And so the IOC has led USA Wrestling to believe that this is an issue that is being resolved and that Aaron Brooks will be competing in the Olympic Games, and that this is, at the end of the day, a non-issue. I will say, having watched the IOC over the years, the NCAA, until you actually get the assurance and the clearance, I still don't rule out the possibility of idiocy reigning supreme and somehow Aaron Brooks being ruled out of the Olympics. But everybody I've talked to, the expectation seems to be that he will compete in the Olympics and that this, at the end of the day, is a non-issue. Again, I'm fairly confident in it too, but man, we've seen some inexplicable things happen within the IOC, and so until we actually get the official word that yep, he's good to go and everything's been cleared, I'll still be holding my breath a little bit. But let me put it this way: I have not talked to anybody that thinks this is a serious issue and that it's really debatable whether or not he'll ultimately get in. There seems to be some assurance from the powers that be that, this will be resolved and that this is, again, at the end of the day, going to be a non-issue, but we'll see. Yeah, go ahead. The only, I presume you've seen David Taylor is taking Jimmy Kennedy, which is no surprise. His brother-in-law is the associate head coach, and Thomas Gilman. I still haven't seen Gilman. I mean, Gilman is officially an assistant now with David Taylor's staff. I haven't seen him announce officially that he's done competing. And listen, he could still compete, so I don't know that he is officially done with competing. He could still compete while being an assistant coach. Again, Cale competed while head coach here the 1 year, so that's not out of the realm of possibility. But I suspect that both David and Thomas are done with their competitive careers and will be coaching. We did mention earlier, I don't think any of the wrestlers, other than like maybe Terrell Barraclaw is already in the portal, I don't think any of them will follow suit, at least initially. I think, again, as things pan out here over the next year or two, and you start to see some of these elite recruits see that there might not be a spot for them in the lineup here for a few years, I think there's certainly a possibility there that some of those guys will end up in Stillwater. No, thank you for coming over and asking the questions. And listen, it's possible some other staff at Penn State follows Taylor there, but I don't I don't think the strength coach or the trainer or anything like that are going to be following David Taylor out there. But, are there some periphery people that could, move out there and take a job that would be a step up the ladder in their respective positions? Yes, but I don't think there's going to be like a mass exodus out of Happy Valley to Stillwater. And I think it just has more to do with, again, a pretty good situation that's developed here at Penn State. Not so much that they're not excited for David Taylor and what he might be able to do out there.
Jeffrey.
Yes, sir.
We touched on it Tuesday. What do you think the odds are of the Beaver Stadium thing?
I think, two things. Three things, actually. One is I think eventually that is going to happen. And I think this year it seems likely now. And a couple of reasons for why I think this year is likely. And this is before David Taylor, and then we'll get into that, before the move to Oklahoma State. Pat Kraft has talked, you and I have talked to him, Goon, and everybody within the Penn State Athletic Department talks about how one of the things they love about Pat Kraft is you can run any idea by him, and even if it's a ludicrous idea that won't work, his initial reaction isn't no. It's like, well, let's talk about it. Let's see what would be involved. And again, it's not that, any idea that's run up the flagpole he just signs off on, but man, he is really willing to try to be creative and wants to hear creative ideas and solutions. So, certainly I think one of the things from Penn State's perspective is it's been done at Iowa. It's been done at Rutgers, for crying out loud. Well, if Iowa and Rutgers can pull it off, certainly if you're Penn State, you're saying, well, we could pull it off better. And so to me, yes, it likely was or is going to happen at some point regardless. I think the fact that Carter Starace mentioned last year that he probably was not coming back, this is before last season began, probably not coming back to use that 5th year of eligibility unless, I forget exactly how he put it, but paraphrasing, if they did a match at Beaver Stadium, boy, that'd be cool, and I'd want to be part of that. That would probably get me back. Now, I don't think that's the sole reason he's coming back, but I do think that got a lot of people talking, thinking, and moving forward with that idea. And I do think it played a small factor into it. And I do think, certainly if you've been following Carter Starace's tweets, he firmly believes that this is going to happen. in the fall. Now, the Oklahoma State component, again, to me, Goon, and I don't know who all Penn State has talked to. I am guessing, and I truly don't have any insight, so I could be wrong on this. This isn't, I've talked to people, and I haven't about an opponent. But Lehigh and Ohio State would be the two schools that I think would immediately come to mind. Lehigh is the most historic and longest running rival of Penn State. And I think Cal likes the idea of having, Pennsylvania schools involved. That they had, Pitt wrestled at the Jordan Center in one of the early BJC matches with Cal as head coach. And Ohio State, who Penn State happens to play Ohio State in football on November 2nd. And if that, in fact, is a night game, again, there's a lot involved there in moving a conference duel to that early in the season, but where there's a will, there's a way, and I suspect that those teams would. Now, the added factor there is you'd have to work out, because right now that is scheduled to be an away meet, if I'm not mistaken, for the upcoming season. So, but those were the two teams that immediately came to mind to me as possibilities. I will say, like, from just if you're looking to make a splash with the Beaver Stadium meet, right, how are you going to make a bigger splash than having David Taylor as head coach of Oklahoma State make his debut as head coach at that program back at his home, for his adult life until he took this job at Beaver Stadium? I think it would be, I can't imagine that they're not having the conversations. I mean, I do believe that there's at least talks going on. Now, whether or not at the end of the day, both administrations sign off on it, whether or not it actually happens, I don't know. I don't know any of the details or what all goes into that. But I would think, I mean, David Taylor, I think, would jump at the opportunity to be the head coach of one of the teams participating in the first ever dual meet at Beaver Stadium. I think Taylor, that is a no-brainer. And then some for David Taylor. And I think from Penn State's perspective, again, you're looking to get as big of a crowd as you can. Well, you're not, no matter what other team you would bring in, you're not getting more folks in Beaver Stadium than you would for that matchup. Again, it is a program in Oklahoma State that has the most national titles of any collegiate program in any sport. You have David Taylor, obviously the face of the Cal Sanderson era to a very large degree, making his coaching debut. Again, to me, Goon, if you are looking to make the biggest splash possible for Penn State, for Beaver Stadium, for college wrestling in general, that is the dual meet you have. And I think so I have to believe that the discussions at least are occurring. I'd like to think there's a pretty good chance it will happen. And again, we'll wait.
We had talked about it. I don't know if we were on the air or off the air. So you were thinking maybe the same day as a football game and just break it down? Because I was thinking a Sunday after an Ohio State game, that would be a hell of a match out there.
Yeah, I think either way. Again, I don't know what all is involved in the logistics. To me, if you're looking to get the and I might be wrong about this, because I was talking with somebody else about it also last night, and they're like, I don't know, like, if you're a non-wrestling fan, do you want to give up your tailgating going into it? And I'm like, well, so my thinking, and again, maybe I'm wrong on this, but my thinking is, well, you're already there and you have a chance to see something extremely unique and be part of, just kind of like the Luke Combs concert or the Hoppy Valley Brewers Fest this Saturday. I think similar to that, it's the novelty of it would be an attraction. And I think I mean, I think a lot of wrestling fans obviously would go, but I think a lot of people that even that have never been to a wrestling meet and, you know, are probably aware that Penn State's had a lot of success, but it's like, oh man, well, if they're doing this, kind of like, you know, when Nebraska, when the women's volleyball team had that match. I mean, it was like not everybody there is a diehard women's volleyball fan, right? I mean, women's volleyball is very big there, just like wrestling's big here. But a lot of the people that went into the stadium that day were there because, man, this is cool. This is a unique thing. I want to be part of a spectacle. So, to me, if you have the added draw of David Taylor and all of that, if you did it on a game day, and again, maybe it's not logistically possible. I don't know what all goes into that. It would seem to me that if you set that up for like a noon start, and let's start with, I'm presuming that the Ohio State game is a night game. That is not definite at this point either, to our knowledge anyway. But if that is in fact a night game and, you know, a 7:30 or 8 o'clock kickoff, to me, you have the wrestling meet at noon. You'd be able to clear the stadium by 2:30ish, and, you know, reset anything that you needed to reset. Or maybe, again, I don't know what all is involved with the logistics. Maybe set some other things up in the stadium and tell people to just hang out. But I would think, you know, you kind of clear it out and you have, you know, whatever it is, the 3-hour gap or whatever, where people can go back and tailgate and then come back in for the football game. I don't know. The Sunday thing, my thinking is just that there's going to be a lot. I still think you'd get a great crowd. I think you're right about that. And obviously, I think a lot of people would hang around.
Oh, I really do. And I think that's a way for Penn State to maximize the exposure / money on this thing, would be to have it Sunday, you know, all new parking, all new tailgating thing. It's been a whole weekend out of it.
Yeah, and the one thing, I'm just thinking it through a little more now, probably logistically, you might need to do that only because, so the one thing that you have to have in place is the contingency plan, which is if it is pouring out, right,
Yep.
you cannot do a wrestling meet. You can't have wrestlers on a mat that is wet. Okay, that does not work. That is not safe. So, you know, what they had when Iowa and Oklahoma State wrestled their meet, what they had was the contingency plan. Now, it worked out. They had good weather and they did it in the stadium. But they had a plan where if the weather was not good, they were moving the meet to Carver Hawkeye, and they had set up ahead of time that, listen, these are the fans whose tickets work then to go over to Carver Hawkeye. Obviously, a good number of fans that ended up going to that meet would not have been able to go into Carver Hawkeye, and you have to have, you know, the plan in place to either refund those tickets or, hey, instead you get to watch, you know, a closed circuit viewing of it, either you know, at Rec Hall or at Beaver Stadium or at Medler Field, or I mean, you got to get something worked out there where you do have the plan to move indoors. And as I'm thinking about that, you would not be able to do that on a football Saturday because of the Jordan Center. I don't think. Because of the other uses of the Jordan Center. So yeah, maybe it would make sense on a Sunday, or well, Sunday would probably make the most sense.
And then, Jeffrey, my next question is, how do you think the mat would be set up? Would you maximize 107,000 seats, or would you cut it down and make it 80 like the Luke Combs thing?
Yeah, what they did, I don't know the answer to that. And I don't know, again, I don't know what all goes into the decision making. If I'm remembering right, and I'm pretty sure I am, the Oklahoma State Iowa meet at Kinnick was
$40K, I think,
in an end zone. Yeah, but they had the mat in an end zone.
Yep.
And they had the fans obviously on that side of the stadium. And so I don't I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you would set it up so that the entire stadium was at least an option, or if you're like, man, if we could get 50,000, we take it, and you set it up kind of on one half of the field. I don't know if you wait and see how the ticket sales are going and then make that decision. I don't know. That's a good question, because if you put it in the middle of the, at the 50-yard line, right, then you need probably at least 80,000 to make that feel like it's a worthwhile venture, right? I mean, to really, I don't know, the worthwhile that's overstating it, but I mean, to make it have an impact with the fans if you're opening up the entire stadium. I don't know. That's a good question, and I don't know. We were kicking around what is a realistic expectation, and maybe I'm unrealistic, but I think 60 to 80,000 is doable, and it's not. Again, you are going to get the diehard wrestling fans for sure, and I think with that you're probably going to be able to get 25 to 30 anyway, for sure in there. But I think it's if you're a sports fan, and just the novelty of this, again, I think there's a lot of people that would be, and especially if you throw in the David Taylor factor or element to this, I would think you can get another 50,000 folks that are like, yeah, to check this out. Now, part of it is going to be the pricing and the parking, and again, I don't know what all goes into that decision making, but I think if you make this reasonably priced, similar to what you would pay for a ticket to Rec Hall, and keep the parking at $10 that it is for most of the sporting events, non-football sporting events. To me, I think 70, 80,000 would be doable for that, especially if you did it on a home football weekend.
Yeah. Well, you know me, I'm an idea man head.
Yeah.
So we got Ohio State November 2 on a Saturday day, night, whatever. Sunday afternoon, early afternoon, Penn State, Oklahoma State wrestling match at Beaver Stadium. I think some Ohio State fans stay behind it to watch that, to be even part of that.
I think that's possible.
The ticket's $25 a piece. You're not asking for $1 million a ticket. $10 a car coming in, tailgating rules, all that apply. I mean, man, let's make it happen, dude. I really think it could happen. I mean, elevate the ring up about 10, 15 feet, maybe. I don't know. Make it a little more easier to see for the crowds.
Well, and I would agree with that. I think especially if you're doing it, really, I guess either way. Now, again, the other thing, I just don't know enough about the logistics and what all goes into this. I don't know. Does putting some kind of a riser for the mats, does that would that affect the field more or less differently than just having the mat rolled out on the field? I don't know what all goes into that, how much of an impact, what all you can do to mitigate the damage or whatever to the field.
Float above. Have it just strapped up like a canopy. And it's a moving target. We soak it down with water and foam and just get after it.
There you go.
No holds barred, cage them up. No, I mean, there's a lot of stuff you could do with that. I just think it's a great idea, and the thought of it would just be outstanding. But we were laughing the other day about Sriracha won this, and he's probably the only one because he's from Erie. He's used to being cold in November, and I mean, that might be a cold day someday. That could be a really, really cold day.
No doubt. And again, you have to have the contingency and plan and have it very clearly laid out. All right, these tickets will get you into the Jordan Center if we have to move it, and these tickets don't. And then again, what you do with those other tickets, it all has to be established obviously ahead of time. And I think you could maybe do like some sort of a closed circuit thing, or if it is televised or whatever, but show it on the even if it is cold weather, hey, come watch it at Beaver Stadium anyway, if you have the ticket, and provide whatever other opportunities. But I think it would be certainly Oklahoma State, Penn State would get more people in than any other potential matchup. I mean, I think Penn State, Ohio State, but again, I think that would be scheduled to be at Ohio State this year, so you'd have to, which I'm sure they would work out if need be. If Ohio State was interested, they could work out, having Ohio State come this year and then Penn State the next couple of years or whatever. But you have to have the conference sign off on that, and again, move the date of the dual meet and all of that. So there's a lot in play there. Iowa obviously would be a possibility and would get a great crowd as well. I think Lehigh would get a good crowd. But yeah, it almost, from a marketing standpoint and trying to get the biggest crowd possible in there, having that be David Taylor's coaching debut, welcome to Beaver Stadium, be pretty tough to top that in terms of overall interest. And I think, that would add several thousand anyway to the attendance figures.
I agree, buddy. These are all things that Pat, there's nothing in Pat Kraft's future there. He doesn't have anything on his mind or on his docket. Now he has to worry about this now. Jeez Louise. But I think they're great opportunities. I mean, you were talking about, wow, I can't believe Beaver Stadium is used for a country concert. Well, there you go. We're thinking outside of the box, and we finally are doing that, and I love it. I love all these different opportunities. The Flyers, Penguins, possibly the Eagles, Steelers preseason game. These are all great things. I mean, I'm glad we're talking about them.
Yeah. Now the other, I don't know what kind of waivers would be involved with if you tried to get maybe an even earlier dual meeting. I don't know how early you want to go. I mean, I kind of think that November 2nd is the about as early as you could go. And I think Penn State, I'm just trying to remember here, I'm looking at the schedule. So they're on the road those two previous weekends in October. I don't think there's any way you could go any earlier than like the 25th. But again, Penn State would be at Wisconsin that weekend. Could you get a great crowd? Sure. But I think trying to build off of the football crowd and getting them to hang around would be kind of best case scenario. So to me, that November 3rd opportunity. Now, the one thing there, Goon, is, again, I just don't know the logistics involved and what we're looking at in terms of the field and the impact there. But you do have another home game that, on the 9th.
That's Saturday,
Washington coming in. So that's, if you did it on Sunday, I mean, it does give you some time, but obviously not a lot of time to make any repairs that you'd need to in the field. And obviously you got to get that figured out and be confident, not even confident. You got to be sure that the field is going to be fine for the Washington game then the following week, which I would think, again, they can.
I do too. I think they'll be all right.
But you got to account obviously for that before you'd sign off on doing this. But it'd be very cool. It'd be quite the weekend for Penn State.
It would be. It would be great.
Penn State, Ohio State football, followed the next day by Penn State, Oklahoma State wrestling at Beaver Stadium. That's going to be a pretty tough weekend to top in terms of significance for Penn State sports fans.
I love it, buddy.
Well, that is just about going to wrap things up. Real quick, Goon, just your thoughts on, because I am excited to see, certainly from a Penn State perspective, I think it'll be neat to see Washington coming in here, to see Penn State going to USC, all of those things. I think that Ohio State Oregon game will be a fascinating watch this season. But I think as a whole, just like David Taylor going to Oklahoma State, I think there's just a different energy. I don't know how it's all going to pan out, but I am excited to see what this new Big Ten brings in terms of the football action and competitiveness. And same thing with Oklahoma and Texas going to the SEC. Like I'm just fascinated to see how it plays out, what teams are most impacted, and and how those schools just ultimately kind of fit in here in the upcoming season.
I'm completely on board with that. I mean, you and I have talked over years that it is a huge difference in the new conferences and stuff like that. But the first couple of years, you're still going to be Oklahoma and Texas going into the SEC. You're still going to be Oregon, USC, Washington. You're still going to keep that your image a little bit, but then you will have to change and make some changes in the near future. But being one on the Penn State team that entered the Big Ten, we didn't know what we were getting into, but it was pretty awesome going to these different environments. And I love the fact that the 4 new teams are coming in. There's a new blood in our league, and there's going to be new rivalries coming out of that. And I'm really excited about it because I respect those programs, especially Oregon and Washington. USC is obviously a blue blood. UCLA is obviously been there in the past. So I love what's going on in sports right now, as you well know. And, we kid around about what Pat Kraft has going on in his world, and there is a lot of that stuff. I mean, I can't imagine what the conversation he has with all these different schools and, are they going to take the next step? There are more people coming in or not. And I'm really excited for the whole thing. And like I said, a change of blood, who would have thought we would have a huge rivalry with Iowa 25, 30 years ago when we joined the Big Ten?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the rivals we picked up out of the Big Ten. A lot of it's coming from wrestling, in my opinion, but we've played some big games against Iowa, and they beat us in some big environments, and we beat them in some big environments. So, who would have thought that 30-some years ago that that would be the rivalry that came out of that?
That is going to take care of things for today's show. We'll be back on Tuesday. Hopefully, we'll be talking about a couple of big NCAA tournament wins for the Penn State lacrosse teams. Again, good luck to both of those teams as they get underway with NCAA tournament action this weekend. And we will be back on Tuesday. Until then, be good and be safe.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorrento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
Since retiring, I have spent my time searching the countryside for the hottest wings in America. I always seem to end up disappointed. You call these hot? Back off, Luigi.
Mamma mia.
Look, hands it, busboy. Your wings suck! I knew I should have stuck with Quaker Steak's triple atomic wings. You think I'm tough enough?
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
Sioka Toyota of Williamsport invites you to stop in today or check us out online. We have the smart path to your next Toyota, like the all-new Crown, BZ4X, the all-new Grand Highlander, Corolla Cross Hybrids, Sequoias, and more. Over 100 new Toyotas here and on the way. Don't make a $1,000 mistake. Choose Sioka Toyota of Williamsport and see the Sioka dealership's difference. Buy or reserve yours today and see for yourself why Sioka Toyota is the only stop you need for your next new car. Sioka Toyota, it just feels right.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen O'Habaker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen O'Habaker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen O'Habaker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.